This is Sensor Steel reporting as Yo Sang Sabaik. Recently, France has been unusually excessive in its checks against Korea. President Macron of France has publicly criticized the Korean defense industry. In the Czech nuclear power plant bidding war, they even resorted to espionage. This kind of behavior has been showing up more frequently these days. Today, let's take a look at this issue. First, let's see what's happening. First, on April 25, 2024, President Macron of France made the following remarks in front of European Union Parliament officials at Sorbonne University in Paris. Since the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, we have responded by purchasing American and Korean weapons. He argued that for Europe's independent defense, we should buy more European military equipment. It was quite an unusual remark. Actively stepping up to protect a certain industry is something we see quite often, not only in our country, but also in other countries. But this is about weapons. It's very rare for a president of a country to directly say that weapons should be bought out of patriotism. I think this is the first time I've seen something like this too. The reason France openly expressed concern about Korean defense companies' rapid entry into Europe and explicitly mentioned Korea while urging the purchase of European-made weapons is probably because Korean defense companies have recently expanded a lot into Europe. First of all, as the new Cold War era unfolds, South Korea's defense industry market has seen tremendous growth. The combined first quarter sales of the 4 leading defense companies in the military sector have already surpassed 8 trillion won, and they are expected to set an all-time record. They have exported the K9 self-propelled howitzer and the Chunmoo multiple rocket launcher to Eastern Europe, sold the FA-50 to Poland, and also signed a contract to export the K2 tank to Poland. Even though there are already major defense companies in Europe like Rheinmetall, Dassault, and British Aerospace Systems, they have managed to break through and are gradually expanding their influence in the European market. The reason they could trust Korea like this is because Korea is fundamentally a country that aims for total war. As a result, they have developed a large standing army. In this process, Korea has built a defense industry infrastructure capable of quickly mass-producing high-quality weapons at reasonable prices, whereas Europe has not been able to do so at all. So since Korea can produce a good amount of cost-effective weapons and deliver them quickly, they have become much more popular compared to other countries that couldn't do so. For example, while German factories can produce at most about 5 PZH-2000 self-propelled howitzers a year, 320 K9 self-propelled howitzers, this might be because Korea is obsessed with firepower, but their production capacity itself is far superior. That's why Korean weapons have become quite popular, but it seems that France was very displeased about this. So since 2022, France has started to keep Korea in check in a big way. First of all, after President Macron of France made such remarks in 2024, France has continued to play political games to prevent Korea's defense industry from entering Europe. Because France took the lead in keeping Korea in check, the European Union even passed a European rearmament program that increased the proportion of European-made weapons purchases to over 65%. This has a very negative impact on Korea. Now, for a non-European country to export weapons to Europe, they have to include local production requirements, which is an open move to keep Korea in check. As a result, Korea is trying to overcome this by implementing localization strategies and establishing joint ventures in Europe. This kind of containment was gradually becoming a reality. In the United Kingdom's next self-propelled artillery acquisition project, the K9A2 self-propelled howitzer competed with Germany's remote-controlled howitzer, 155-wheeled self-propelled howitzer. Despite years of effort, the remote-controlled howitzer, 155, was ultimately chosen. In Norway's next-generation tank industry, the K2 tank competed with the Leopard 2A7 tank. Even though the K2 tank performed better, the Leopard 2A7 was chosen. And the problem is that this kind of check from France doesn't just happen within Europe, but also in other countries. For example, Indonesia is the biggest case. Of course, there is a lot of talk right now regarding Indonesia and the KF-21 fighter jet. Indonesia also ordered 42 Rafale fighter jets and 12 used Mirage fighter jets from the United Arab Emirates, both made in France. Also, instead of Korean-made submarines, Indonesia decided to import 2 French Scorpion submarines, which continues to show France's ongoing interference. But everyone, France's efforts to keep Korea in check aren't just limited to the defense industry. Now, they're even extending their interference into the nuclear power sector. Recently, Korea achieved a historic feat in the Czech nuclear power plant bidding competition. That's right, Korea succeeded in signing the final contract for the new Dukovany nuclear power plant project in the Czech Republic. This is Korea's second nuclear power plant export case after the Baraka nuclear power plant in the United Arab Emirates, and it's being evaluated as a sign that Korea's status in the global energy market has risen even higher. However, France's actions during this process were at a level that could hardly be considered fair competition. First, the French electric power company officially raised objections 3 times when Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power was selected as the preferred negotiation partner. This was clearly a stalling tactic. They legally tied up the Czech government to prevent them from signing a contract with Hansu Huan. Moreover, beyond just legal action, France even mobilized its diplomatic intelligence agencies to carry out an organized operation. According to a report revealed in June 2025 by Respect, a Czech investigative journalism magazine, the French intelligence agency was actually running a spy organization inside the Czech Republic. Here's what it says. France recruited a total of 15 people in the Czech Republic, including former officials, lobbyists, nuclear experts, and even current government employees. Outwardly, they appeared neutral, but in reality, they were guided to create negative public opinion about Korea Hydro and nuclear power's proposal. These people gave interviews to the media or attended policy review meetings, pointing out specific problems with the Korean proposal. However, behind the scenes, there were secret delays and instructions from the French intelligence authorities. Public opinion manipulation and psychological warfare were carried out at the same time. What's even more shocking is that there are indications that confidential documents were leaked. The Czech security agency, Bezpečnostní informační služba, revealed that there are indications the French side had already known the contents and assumptions of the diplomatic letter between France and the Czech Republic before the letter was even exchanged. This means that there is a collaborator inside the Czech Republic working with France, and that government secrets were being leaked to the French intelligence agency in real time. This shows just how far France is conducting its operations. When this situation became known to the public, the Czech government expressed strong anger at France's actions. The Czech Republic immediately criticized France publicly, saying that it could not tolerate the French government's organized diplomatic operations and manipulation of origins. Even the Czech media denounced France's interference as beyond imagination, calling it a one-sided intervention that ignored normal diplomatic relations. Maybe thanks to that, the Czech Republic eventually signed a final contract with Korea, and Korea ended up winning. But what we should pay attention to here is not simply the success of signing the contract. It's the fact that this incident revealed concrete evidence of how far France can go to keep Korea in check. Then why did France go this far? There can only be one reason. It's probably because Korea is threatening France's industry. Not only in nuclear power, but also in the defense industry, Korea's industries have already become real competitors to France, and this is probably an act to protect their own interests. If France doesn't keep Korea in check and stop this situation now, France could lose its industrial leadership for decades to come. That's why they're trying to keep Korea in check. In fact, the conflict between Korea and France has only just begun. Right now, they're clashing in the defense and nuclear power sectors, but in the future, the conflict could become even broader and more intense. That's because the industries in which Korea is rapidly growing are already core industries generating profits for France. France's checks will only get stronger, not weaker. In the defense industry, Korea has achieved a level of price competitiveness and delivery speed that threatens Germany and France. In the nuclear power industry as well, Korea is taking over the next-generation nuclear power market in Europe based on its technological capabilities and cost competitiveness. In addition, there are many fields such as electric vehicle batteries, automobiles, and aerospace, where the results are still modest, but exports are likely to expand in the future. These industries are inevitably set to directly compete with France, so the conflict between Korea and France will continue in the future. France will probably use its political power, diplomatic influence, and information warfare to keep Korea in check even more in this situation. Right now, France has the backing of a large international organization, the European Union, so Korea is at a bit of a disadvantage. On top of that, as was revealed in the Czech nuclear power plant bidding war, France went beyond simple corporate competition and tried to block Korea by mobilizing organized government-level espionage, manipulating public opinion, political lobbying, and even legal obstruction. This isn't just simple industrial competition, it can be seen as a national-level strategy. In other words, an industrial war fought for national interests. And for Korea to survive in this war, relying solely on unconditional technological capability is not enough. We also need an organization that can analyze international public opinion and respond to psychological warfare. The government needs to step in and provide support to create a more favorable environment. On top of that, we need to strengthen our industrial competitiveness. If Korea achieves high marks in all areas, technology, delivery time, price, and so on, then people will choose Korea anyway. So it's important to maintain our competitiveness without wavering. The most important thing is for the government to provide support through organized diplomatic efforts, and by sending government delegations and local missions, the government should help Korean companies compete in a more favorable environment. From now on, France will continue to keep Korea in check. On the assumption that this conflict will continue to repeat and escalate, we need to be thoroughly prepared in all areas: industry, diplomacy, and information warfare. If Korea falters here, we may never get another opportunity like this again. But on the other hand, if we break through and overcome the current checks, Korea could become a country that can thrive on that for at least several decades. What do you think about France's checks on Korea? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. That's it for this video. Bye.